The weapon of criticism cannot, of course, replace criticism of the weapon. Material force must be overthrown by material force. But theory also becomes a material force as soon as it has gripped the masses. Theory is capable of gripping the masses as soon as it demonstrates ad hominem, and it demonstrates ad hominem as soon as it becomes radical. To be radical is to grasp the root of the matter, but, for man, the root is man himself. But, if constructing the future and settling everything for all times are not our affair, it is all the more clear what we have to accomplish at present. I am referring to ruthless criticism of all that exists. Ruthless both in the sense of not being afraid of the results it arrives at and in the sense of being just as little afraid of conflict with the powers that be. Religious suffering is, at one and the same time, the expression of real suffering and a protest against real suffering. Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, and the soul of soulless conditions. It is the opium of the people. We develop new principles for the world out of the world's own principles. We do not say to the world, cease your struggles, they are foolish. We will give you the true slogan of struggle. We merely show the world what it is really fighting for. And consciousness is something that it has to acquire, even if it does not want to. This is a kind of mutual reconciliation society. Actual extremes cannot be mediated with each other precisely because they are actual extremes, but neither are they in need of mediation, because they are opposed in essence. All forms of the state have democracy for their truth, and for that reason are false to the extent that they are not democracy. Reason has always existed, but not always in a reasonable form. The bureaucrat has the world as a mere object of his action. The bureaucracy is a circle from which no one can escape. Its hierarchy is a hierarchy of knowledge. Atheism reminds one of children, assuring everyone who is ready to listen to them that they are not afraid of the bogeyman. If we have chosen the position in life in which we can most of all work for mankind, no burdens can bow us down, because they are sacrifices for the benefit of all. Then we shall experience no petty, limited, selfish joy, but our happiness will belong to millions. Our deeds will live on quietly but perpetually at work, and over our ashes will be shed the hot tears of noble people. History calls those men the greatest who have ennobled themselves by working for the common good. Experience acclaims as happiest the man who has made the greatest number of people happy. As Prometheus, having stolen fire from heaven, begins to build houses and to settle upon the earth, so philosophy, expanded to be the whole world, turns against the world of appearance. The same now with the philosophy of Hegel. Real tailors have the same existence that the imagined gods have. Has a real tailor any existence except in the imagination, if only in the general, or rather common imagination of man? Bring paper money into a country where this use of paper is unknown, and everyone will laugh at your subjective imagination. It was Marx who had first discovered the great law of motion of history, the law according to which all historical struggles, whether they proceed in the political, religious, philosophical, or some other ideological domain, are in fact only the more or less clear expression of struggles of social classes, and that the existence and thereby the collisions, too, between these classes are in turn conditioned by the degree of development of their economic position, by the mode of their production and of their exchange determined by it. This law, which has the same significance for history as the law of the transformation of energy has for natural science. The doctrine of Hegel, taken as a whole, left plenty of room for giving shelter to the most diverse practical party views, and in the theoretical Germany of that time, two things above all were practical: religion and politics. Whoever placed the chief emphasis on the Hegelian system could be fairly conservative in both spheres. Whoever regarded the dialectical method as the main thing could belong to the most extreme opposite, on, both in politics and religion. It is precisely the alteration of nature by men, not solely nature as such, which is the most essential and immediate basis of human thought. Nature is the proof of dialectics, and it must be said for modern science that it has furnished this proof with very rich materials, increasing daily. Only sound common sense, respectable fellow that he is, in the homely realm of his own four walls, has very wonderful adventures directly he ventures out into the wide world of research. It is generally the fate of completely new historical creations to be mistaken for the counterparts of older, and even defunct, forms of social life, to which they may bear a certain likeness. The English have at their disposal all necessary material preconditions for a social revolution. What they lack is the spirit of generalization and revolutionary passion. Only the General Council of the International can provide them with this, and thus accelerate a truly revolutionary movement here and, in consequence, everywhere. Of course, the method of presentation must differ in form from that of inquiry. The latter has to appropriate the material in detail, to analyze its different forms of development, to trace out their interconnection. Only after this work is done can the actual movement be adequately described. If this is done successfully, if the life of the subject matter is ideally reflected as in a mirror, then it may appear as if we had before us a mere a priori construction. My dialectic method is not only different from the Hegelian, but is its direct opposite. With him it is standing on its head. It must be turned right side up again. If you would discover the rational kernel within the mystical shell, between capitalist and communist society there lies the period of the revolutionary transformation of the one into the other. Corresponding to this is also a political transition period in which the state can be nothing but the revolutionary dictatorship of the proletariat. It is altogether self-evident that, to be able to fight at all, the working class must organize itself at home as a class and that its own country is the immediate arena of its struggle, insofar as its class struggle is national, not in substance, but, as the Communist Manifesto says, in form. Every step of real movement is more important than a dozen programs. Greek philosophy seems to have met with something with which a good tragedy is not supposed to meet, namely, a dull ending. Communism is the riddle of history solved, and it knows itself to be the solution. Natural science will in time incorporate into itself the science of man, just as the science of man will incorporate into itself natural science. There will be one science. Political economy regards the proletarian like a horse. He must receive enough to enable him to work. It does not consider him, during the time when he is not working, as a human being. It leaves this to criminal law, doctors, religion, statistical tables, politics, and the beetle. The entire movement of history, as simply communism's actual act of genesis, the birth act of its empirical existence, is, therefore, for its thinking consciousness the comprehended and known process of its becoming. Political economy came into being as a natural result of the expansion of trade, and with its appearance elementary, and scientific huckstering was replaced by a developed system of licensed fraud, an entire science of enrichment. The representation of private interests abolishes all natural and spiritual distinctions by enthroning in their stead the moral, the rational and soulless abstraction of a particular material object and a particular consciousness, which is slavishly subordinated to this object. What is genuine is proved in the fire. What is false we shall not miss in our ranks. The opponents must grant us that youth has never before flocked to our colors in such numbers. In the end, one will be found among us who will prove that the sword of enthusiasm is just as good as the sword of genius.
Be sure to subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media for more thought-provoking content. Until next time, stay inspired and keep seeking knowledge.